All right, I think it's 1:45. My mic's on, so let's get this going. Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Dundas. I'm on the Office 365 product marketing team. Thanks so much for joining this session. We're going to talk about collaboration in Office 365, specifically the role of groups and how to manage Office 365 groups. Two quick notes before we jump into it. We are actually recording these sessions so that folks who are not able to join us here in Chicago can learn from the content. And that means two things for this particular session. First, I'm going to ask that you hold questions until the end, so we get a clear recording that you can share with colleagues next week. Second, it means that you may see a few slides that you saw earlier today, and that's because we're setting context on how we think about collaboration and our product strategy there. Sound good? Sound fair? Okay, quick poll before we start. How many people have Office 365 rolled out in their organizations today? Yay! All right, perfect. How many of you have been using it for more than 6 months? Okay, more than 12 months? More than 18 months? Oh, I love it. Okay, so how many of you have Office 365 groups enabled in your organization? Okay, perfect. We're all in the right place together. Well, I work in the Redmond office, and I talk to customers every week about collaboration, and questions I frequently get are, what's your product strategy in this space? And how come there's so many different applications that I can collaborate using different applications? And how do I help my end users decide which tool to use in different scenarios? We're going to talk about all of that today, as well as a whole lot more. So let's jump into it. You know my name. We're going to talk about collaboration. So 3 specific topics. First, we'll cover Microsoft's approach to collaboration and our product strategy, really how we think about this space and how we think about developing applications that can help you and your end users achieve more. Second, how to manage groups. This is the practical stuff. Once you're sold on it, okay, how do we manage different elements of it? So we'll go through some of those IT controls. Third, how to get started. I just met Eileen here. Her organization just got Office 365, and she's here because she's in charge of figuring out how to roll it out, which is a big job, as many of you here know. So we'll talk for Eileen about some of that, how to get started. So first, in terms of collaboration, I think everybody here in this room knows that collaboration is how we get work done now. And there's been tremendous increase in the volume of collaboration. And what's really interesting about this, I've dug into the data, and it doesn't matter how you look at the data. If you look at it by average information worker, they're spending twice as many hours collaborating today as they did 5 years ago. If you look at it by manager, twice as much collaboration happening. If you look at it by number of teams, the average employee is on twice as many teams now as they were before. So however you slice it, we're all doing a lot more collaborating. But the way we're collaborating is very different now than it was 5 years ago. And one of the main ways it's different is that 40% of the US workforce today is contingent or contract workers. We're in an environment where people are increasingly working as consultants and freelancers. And for our organizations, that means that teams are composed often, not just of people who work at the organization, but outside consultants and contractors who need to join in, participate as a fully fledged team member, and then go off on their merry way at the end of the project. And this has specific implications for the features we build into products and the tools we use to collaborate. And so these sorts of trends are top of mind for us as we think about collaboration. And as we peel back the covers and look into how organizations are collaborating today, we see 6 distinct categories of collaboration. So first, you've got the chat-based workspace. Imagine your team of application developers, and they're spending all day and they're chatting with each other and sharing feature documents, and it's very much a real-time sort of collaboration. And there's a set of tools in the industry to go and serve that need. Mail and calendar. I think we all know how we collaborate in mail. Many of us spend a lot of time in Outlook. And so people are using Outlook for sort of informal collaboration. Voice in meetings. Nothing replaces those. Those still happen. Content creation, especially when you think about content management workflows, that is a distinct category of collaboration, and there are purpose-built tools for that. And then enterprise social, reaching across the organization to find and discover content and make those connections across the organization. So in every organization today, there are some or all of these types of collaboration happening, but not all of them may be enabled by IT. You may have a situation where IT has rolled out one set of productivity tools, and that team of application developers has said, hey, we don't want to talk in email, we want to use a persistent chat tool. And so they've gone off and downloaded the tool and gone off on their merry way. Or for content sharing, someone said, hey, it's too hard to use our organization's content sharing system, so we're just going to go use this consumer grade solution, and that's going to work fine for our team needs. So we see end users are really driving towards picking the tools that work for their functional need and their work style, because each one of these groups has a different set of needs, and they need the tool that will work functionally and for the culture of their team. And so this creates a situation where it's very difficult for IT to manage because some of the content and data is residing outside of the organization's environment, some of it's inside, and if you have a situation where the lawyers are calling and you need to do e-discovery on some of that outside content, you can't reach it. And of course, if an employee leaves the company and it was their login information that housed that outside content, then you really can't access the content anymore. And it also creates a burden for end users. The context switching between different applications, different logins, all of that creates a burden that adds friction in the collaboration process. And this is why we've designed Office 365 to meet the different needs of all of these different groups. And so for that team of application developers that wants to work in persistent chat, we now have Microsoft Teams, which we just announced last November. For the folks who are working in email and want to stay in email, imagine a senior leadership team, very time-stretched, people who don't have a lot of time and Outlook is their home base. We have groups in Outlook. They can collaborate there. Voice and video meetings, we've got Skype. The rich Office applications and SharePoint provide the content management solution. And of course, Yammer for facilitating connections across the organization and discovering new content. Each of these applications is purpose-built to meet those unique needs of different teams. And some people in the organization may use all of them, some may only use a couple, and that's okay because they all are integrated with Office 365 groups, which provides that cross-application membership and context for people as they work across Office 365. All of this is based on Microsoft's commitment to security and compliance. We believe your data is yours and you decide who has access to it and you have control over it. And so that is Office 365 today. And I think it's important to note that Office 365 represents the culmination of our learning in the productivity space. With products like Exchange and SharePoint, we have been iterating and road testing literally for decades on these products to deliver the most best experience for customers and one that has the right features for you. But other newer products as well are leaders in their category. So you don't have to choose between a single star app or a suite. You can really have the best of both worlds with Office 365. So now let's talk about groups and the role groups plays in Office 365. Now in the past, when you would collaborate, if I was a leader of a team, an end user at an organization, and I wanted to start a project, I'd have to figure out, okay, where are we going to do our messages? I'm going to create a DL. Okay, I've got to figure out where we want to share files. Maybe I'll create a SharePoint site. And if I'm an end user, I might need some help with that. So that might result in some calls to IT. I might need some permissions. Have to figure out, are we going to do our project plan in Excel with a Word doc, kind of a work back schedule? Or maybe we want to use a specific project planning tool. There were all of these steps that took time to get the group organized. With Office 365 groups, the end user simply chooses the application they want to work in, creates a group, and they're good to go. They have their list of members, and they have a set of assets that they can easily reach within that application they've chosen to work in. So the value of groups for end users is it really removes that friction in the startup process. End users are empowered. They can do self-service group creation, and they can get going quickly, and they can manage that group. Because, of course, groups constantly change. People go out on leave. New employees are hired. And when they join a group, they need to be added, and the end user can simply take on that responsibility and not lean on IT for that. And for IT, it makes it simple because groups are managed, it gives you a single place to manage that group. And so if you need to, delete, if an employee leaves the company, it's very easy to terminate their access to any group content. And it really simplifies the whole picture of collaboration across applications. And we'll talk more about that in a sec. So let's talk specifically about what is groups. It's a membership service. It's an object in Azure Active Directory with a list of members and a set of attributes. That's what groups is. It's not an application unto itself. It's a membership service. And so when a user creates a group, the actions are as follows. Maybe they decide they want to collaborate in Yammer. They go to Yammer. They create a new group to collaborate in Yammer. On the back end, unbeknownst to the end user, a new group identity is created in Azure Active Directory. It tracks that list of members, you can set the attributes, and then it has some loose coupling with the other workloads in the suite, so the links are shared to the other properties. Now that that's created in Azure AD, that is the single spot where you can manage that group. And any changes to the group, whether members are added or deleted, are made in Azure and cascaded down to the other applications. Now, back to the end user view. They simply, within a minute of creating that group, now have their group, it's up and running in their application of choice. So that's really, when you ask what is groups, that's what it is. It's not unique to Outlook. Groups is integrated with Yammer, it's integrated with Teams, it's integrated with SharePoint, it's integrated with Planner. It really is across the suite membership for groups. All right, so let's take a look at what this looks like in some of the end user experiences. All right. Thank you, Chicago. We're not there yet. All right, we'll start off in Yammer. So how many folks here have Yammer in use at their organization today? All right, great. So Yammer takes all those wonderful sort of social gestures that many people use in their personal life, brings them into a work-appropriate space. Yammer is the social network for work. And what's so powerful about Yammer is it gives you the ability to bring together multiple people from across the organization for conversations that can drive the business forward. So as you can see here, I've got all my social features I can like, I can reply, and I'm here on my discovery feed, and I see that there's this group on artificial intelligence. Now, this is a great use case for Yammer, and this is actually a real use case that we use at Microsoft. We use Yammer as a place where we can share learnings and best practices on topics that are of interest for people across the organization. And so at Microsoft, we've got people in Windows working on AI. We've got people in Azure working on AI. We've got people in Office working on AI, and we have our research team working on it. And Yammer is a place where we can have those conversations with all of these people across the organization, share learnings, and really drive our business forward more quickly. Because information travels so quickly, there's no time to set up a more formal group arrangement. And Yammer is open by default, which means anyone in our organization who has an interest in this topic can simply do a search and end up in this group, and they're immediately plugged in and can see all the conversation happening about that. Yammer's fully integrated with Office 365 groups. So over here on the side, you see that I've got the document library, we've got our OneNote, we've got our planner. And so this group is able to collaborate and share all of the rich documents, whatever might be related to that particular conversation. Another great scenario for Yammer is in executive engagement. So for leadership teams who are looking to really drive a dialogue with the broader organization, Yammer provides a great way for that to happen. Here too, the CEO Connection Group is a real example. Satya Nadella one of his main goals is to change the culture of Microsoft to be more learning-oriented and have a growth mindset. And he uses Yammer as a tool in that process, as a way to have more regular and rapid sort of conversations with employees wherever they are. And it's quite effective because we have 120,000 employees. And I think when you're thinking about which tool should I use when, think about some very specific examples. If in this example where you have executives having a dialogue with the whole employee base, what would that look like in Teams? It'd be pretty noisy. What would that look like in email? If a CEO sends an email to the whole organization and the goal is for discussion and dialogue, well, actually a worst case scenario is if everybody emails back because there'd be so many emails, it'd be really tough to consume. Yammer makes it really easy to have that conversation with a large group of people and follow the conversation in the threaded context. So it's really built to shine in these sorts of scenarios. And it's also possible to add an external member or even have an external group on your Yammer network. So it's easy to spin up different specific conversations with different groups of people. So that's Yammer. Now let's take a look at groups in Outlook. So here we are in Outlook. Most of us use it for personal communications, but now you can use it for groups as well. And a common scenario for Outlook is, again, that senior leadership team or any group of people who's already working in Outlook. So if you're already considering it your home base, it's easy to expand it to include your group collaboration. So here we have that senior leadership team. All of their conversations are in the group mailbox. And so if a new person joins the senior leadership team, it's easy for them to get up and running. They've got a calendar that can track regular recurring meetings. If they have a monthly business review, all of that can be tracked on this calendar. The Files tab includes not only the documents that were uploaded to the team site, it also shows any documents that were shared in email with this group. And so you can see here in the activity section, this team budget was actually sent in email, whereas this planning doc was uploaded directly. And this just helps provide an easy reference point so people don't have to dig and try to spend time finding where those documents are. Great, so that's groups in Outlook. Let me show you one more thing. If you were to have a senior leadership team and say the company was going to make an acquisition, and so they wanted to add an external member, somebody from that other company, into their leadership team discussions, they could easily do that. And here you can see I've added myself at my Hotmail address into the group. And that could be a Gmail address, it could be Yahoo, a university address. It's easy to bring in those external members in for full group collaboration. All right, one more application I want to show you, and it's Microsoft Teams. Was anybody able to go to the Teams session earlier today? Nope. Maybe it hasn't happened yet. So Microsoft Teams is our newest application in Office 365. It's a chat-based workspace. And what's helpful to think about as you think about Teams is when we created Teams, we were really thinking about what's the digital equivalent to an open workspace. So imagine a physical office building with cubicles, and you have a bunch of people working, and they might be talking across cubicle doors and telling jokes and sharing resources. We created Teams to be the digital equivalent of that, a tight work group that has sort of always-on communication and can share resources, but also share their character and be a little more flavorful and colorful in communications. So let me orient you to this UI since it's new to many of us. So Teams is organized around the team. So here I have a product launch team, and say there's 20 people on it. Within that launch team, I've got channels for different topics. So not all 20 people are going to work on the go-to-market plan, but maybe 10 people will. And if I come in here, I can see that it's easy to have a threaded conversation. It's easy for me to reply and say, sounds great. And I can even do that and have a richer message if I pop it out that gives me formatting abilities and some controls. And if I want, I can even add some more colorful stuff and do Giphies. I can do stickers and edit my stickers. And it gives you a more fun and sort of casual mode of communication with your coworkers. It's also fully integrated to Office 365. So you can see that any document I share in the chat is actually going to go ahead and be reflected in the chat, but I'll also be able to see it in the Files section. So here are all the docs that are relevant to this go-to-market team. We've got our OneNote for shared note-taking, and I can also extend and customize this experience. I could add a planner that has our product launch plan to it. You could do Power BI if you have a custom dashboard that you want your team to have easy reference with. You have the ability to bring that into the experience itself. And that's the real value of Teams. It's having that hub for your teamwork where all of those resources can be brought into easy view and conveniently placed for the team. Now, when you join Teams, every person gets greeted by the T-Bot. So the T-Bot is there to help end users get product information. And T-Bot was sleeping earlier when I was asking T-Bot questions. But let's see if T-Bot's awake. And T-Bot will return back that guidance. Well, hey, he's awake. Can I edit a message after I hit send? Well, that is a good question. Maybe we'll ask him a question back. OK, no matches. And this is part of the development work we're doing to help end users get the information they need within the app itself, so they don't have to turn to IT to get those sorts of answers. All right, from within Teams, you can also access your regularly scheduled meetings and even schedule some. So I could create a meeting here, I could add everybody in my team or just some people in my team and have a real Skype meeting, even with video, from right within the app itself. So it's a very powerful app. You can also use it for private messaging. So if I wanted to initiate a private chat, I could do that here as well. So that's the quick tour of Teams. Teams is built on Office 365 groups as well. So you see many of that same features in terms of getting that corresponding team site, OneNote, Planner, all within easy reach for the team. All right, back to our slides. So with all of these applications in mind, the question naturally arises. OK, great. There's lots of ways that we could collaborate in Office 365. How do I go about deciding which application I should recommend or I should use in different scenarios? Well, ultimately, because different groups have different needs, and those needs will change based on functional role and work style, there's many right answers out there for starters. So I would say functional role and work style are drivers of that decision. But generally speaking, what we've seen in feedback from customers is that Outlook is a great tool for collaboration for folks who are already working in email. So if you have people who are already working in email, it's their home base, it's their comfortable place, Groups in Outlook is a great collaboration tool for them. Yammer really shines in those scenarios that are connecting people from across the organization. So a group for sharing best practices among salespeople, or a group, I'm in marketing, so I have a group for Office 365 groups, the topic, where I share information and answer questions for all of our field folks from across the world who are interested in Office 365 groups. Any form of information sharing with a broad audience is really effective in Yammer. Teams, great product for folks. Here's a rule of thumb I use. If 80% of your communications are with the same group of people, that defined group of people, Teams is a great option for that group to use to collaborate, because it is that always on. You're sort of in real-time communication with a defined group of people. Skype, the go-to for voice and video meetings. Don't hear as much confusion about that one. And SharePoint, of course, as a standalone experience for content management and intranet portals, is also an ingredient to those collaborative experiences in Outlook, Yammer, and Teams. That is the high-level guidance. But of course, there are many different detailed scenarios where people might have questions. We've actually created the productivity library. I'll just point it here. It's on Fast Track. That has a whole set of scenario-based guidance where people can go in and search based on their functional role and what they're trying to get done, or even their industry, and get very detailed guidance on which tool to use in different scenarios. Great, so that is the overview of Office 365 groups and sort of how we think about developing our collaboration portfolio of products. Now let's talk about how to manage groups at scale. So first off, Groups is not new. Groups has been around for over 2 years now, and we've delivered a ton of features to help you control groups in your organization. At a high level, there's a set of activities that the end user can manage. This is self-service. So the end user, they can create the group, they can decide whether it's going to be public or private, they can add people, they can delete people. and they can delete the whole group. Now you, as the admin, have all those same permissions and abilities, but on top of that, you can pull reports based on group activity, you can turn on dynamic membership in Azure AD, and you can set naming and retention policies. You can even control who can create groups at your organization, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later, because remember, the problem we're trying to solve here is that if we don't enable people to have the right collaboration tools, they frequently just go off and download their own. So important to strike a good balance there. Now, the place where you'll find these controls are in the Office 365 Admin Center and Azure AD Admin Portal. How many folks here have the mobile app for the Office 365 Admin Center? Okay, great. You can do your basic group management tasks from that application. And of course, those folks who prefer to use PowerShell, there are a number of scripts already available. So you have lots of options on how to control groups at your organization and manage them at scale. And let's talk about external guest access. This is a feature we rolled out last fall. It's available today in Outlook. And really what we mean by external guest is anyone who does not have your organization's email. And this can be any email. It could be Gmail, it could be a university address, it could be Yahoo. The end user simply adds that person's email address when they're adding a member to the group. And then Azure AD will take that on and manage that guest ID. And then the guest is fully fledged participating team members with all the same permissions and rights as everyone else in that group. But it's important to note that person is still subject to the organization's policies. So any policies that you've applied for your organization will cascade down to that external guest user's access. So that's on, and the other applications are also in the process of rolling out that guest access as well. So directory management. So you may be thinking, if we enable self-service group creation, people will create lots of groups and maybe the naming conventions will get all messed up and that marketing@contoso.com name I want to reserve for the corporate marketing team will get taken up. The naming policy can help you put some control around that. And you can affix a precursor either before or after the group name, so based on an Azure AD attribute. So for example, you could say, let's set the suffix based on location. And so I'm in Seattle, so if I create marketing group, it will be created as marketing group Seattle. And in that way, you can preserve some of those names that you want to reserve for other uses. We also have a blocked word list. People can get creative when they're doing naming, so we provide some basic guidance and lists there. You can also have your own custom lists that you can upload into the system as well. Dynamic membership. You can activate this in Azure AD, particularly for large groups. You don't want to have to manually manage that group membership, so that's great. Hidden membership. Here in the US, we have federal laws that protect certain classes of students and other users, and so this is the ability that, to have it so that no one else in the environment can see the group membership other than the group members themselves. So that feature is now available. And again, group creation permissions, you can limit who is in your organization has the ability to create groups, but I encourage you to think very hard about it, because if we don't enable it, folks will go around us, and that's just creating a different problem for a different day. This is an active area of investment for us. So today, those naming policies, you apply those in the Exchange Admin Center. We're actually elevating those up to Azure AD so that they can cascade down to all of the applications. And so this is active work we're doing right now, and it should roll out in the next couple of months. So look for more there in terms of both the naming policy and the banned words and profanity checking. Deletion, recovery, and expiring groups, I'll talk about these two as one. So as you enable group creation, you may worry that you're going to end up with a bunch of really old groups, and that's no good. So this will be the ability to set an expiration date for the groups. Maybe the lifespan is 6 months at your organization, and at the end of that period, the group owner would receive an email that says, hey, are you still using this group? If yes, click here. If no, we're going to delete the group. coming with that feature would be the soft delete feature, which gives admins and group owners the ability to restore a group after they've deleted it. And that ability is for a 30-day period. So these are 2 features that should be rolling out in the next couple months as well. So those are those 2. Now, once you have all these groups at your organization, you may be wondering who's using them and be interested in different auditing functions. You can do that both in the Office 365 Admin Center, over at the Azure AD Admin Portal. There's a number of options there for you. So now let's take a look at some of the features we've just talked about. Okay. And we'll head over to the Admin Center. So here we are in the Office 365 Admin Center. Groups has its own dedicated area in the Admin Center. What's that? That's great. Thank you. I won't do that part over. There we go. Okay, Office 365 Admin Center, here we are. And now we're going down to the Groups section. And when I click on this, I see a list of all of my groups. And I can easily go here to get the basic information on the groups, edit it, and delete the group if I want to do that. So really easy to access. And then, as I'm looking at users, I can go in and say I want to understand, how many external users do I have on our network anyway? Here's where I can go ahead and I can see all sorts of attributes around specific users. So here's an external user who came on with a university address. And I can go ahead and get more information on this person. I can delete him or control various aspects of his access. Groups is also a first-party citizen in Azure AD. So if we come over here, you can see how to set up dynamic memberships. So I come into users and groups, and if I click into my groups, and I see all of my groups and how the membership is organized. And here I've got my engineering team, and we've set up dynamic membership there. And that's done simply through applying these rules. And I can set them based on geographical location. I can set them based on a number of attributes. And then finally, for security and compliance, actually, let's go into the Security and Compliance Center. Oh, timed out on that one. So this is where I can go if I hear from the lawyers that we need to go ahead and do some digging on a particular user. And I can go in and do that audit log report. And I'll get both all the users. If I search on, say, Garth Fort, I'll get all of Garth's, it'll search all of Garth's personal inbox and information, but it will also check his group activities as well. So all of this is done through the Security and Compliance Center. So that's a quick tour of some of the admin controls. Now let's talk about how we make some of those security features come to life for the end user experience. So here we have a screenshot. This is from Outlook. And all of us have seen the spy movies that have manila envelopes with things like top secret and classified written on those envelopes. And that's not just the stuff of spy movies. That's actually, there are real titles and organizations where that classification exists. At Microsoft, we have low business impact, medium business impact, and high business impact as our data classification system. And you can see here that when someone's creating a group in Outlook, they have the option, you can set and choose which classification will apply to the group's activities in that particular group. There's also a usage policy up at the top, right below the picture. You can see the usage policy. And all of us are employees, and our activities on technology are subject to our employment agreement. And this usage policy is a way to cascade and remind users about some of those things they've agreed to and give them guidance on appropriate use of this group. So those are two things for security and compliance. And of course, we've got in-place hold and e-discovery, so if there is a situation where there's active litigation, you need to go out, you're asked to go get some information and do some very specific searches, you can easily do that in the Security and Compliance Center. Preservation and deletion policies are sort of two sides of the same coin. So this will be the ability to apply rules to the content. So for preservation, it would be, say we want to keep all the content in this group, so that would be the messages and the files, for a period of 1 year. So you could have the ability to set that policy. Alternatively, on the deletion policy, say you have a group that is set up with a connector, and it's got a Twitter feed coming into it, or a news feed coming into it, and that's not content that you need to hang on to for very long. So say you set a deletion policy that every 30 days, the content of this group will be deleted. That's the deletion policy. So that is coming soon. Any developers in the crowd? Okay, a couple. Well, this is not a dev-focused session, but let me just say that there's the Groups API that you can use to extend your app with group intelligence. It's based on the Microsoft Graph. So if you haven't been to graph.microsoft.com, that's the site that has all the information. We call it one endpoint to rule them all. And there's a number of resources both on the site and linked here for how you can extend your application with group insights. All right, so let's talk about how to get started. First off, if you have active distribution lists in your organization, it's time to upgrade those to groups. Think about if that group of people in the DL could benefit from the extra resources in groups, and if so, it's easy to migrate them. We actually have a one-click method for migrating groups in the Exchange Admin Center, so I'll show you what that looks like, as well as a number of other tools to help you do this. We did a whole session on this topic at Ignite, so if you're looking for very granular guidance, that session is linked at the bottom of this slide. And reporting. Once the groups are active on your network, you may be wondering, why did Katie create 20 groups? Or how much content is this product launch group using? You can find all of that in the usage reports in the Office 365 admin console. All right, let me just show you what that, what the one-click migration looks like. My buttons, there we go. All right, so we're gonna head over to, we'll go to our admin portal. Loading, then we'll come down. All right, so within recipients, I'm gonna look at my groups. And I'm gonna see a long list of groups. Looks like the internet's getting sleepy. And in one click, you can migrate them. Okay, there it is. Okay, so over here, my legal team. Today, it's a distribution list. I simply come up here to this little migrate button to the right of the pencil. It asks me if I'm sure. I just click yes, and that group is migrated to an Office 365 group. So that's how easy it is. You can head home and do it next week. All right, who here knows about Fast Track? Oh, man. Okay, for so many people here are Office 365 customers, and I think Fast Track is the #1 benefit that most customers don't know about. So you're going to leave here, and it's one of the things I hope you take with you. So Fast Track is an organization in Microsoft whose sole purpose is to help your organization get up and running on Office 365, but more than just up and running, to drive usage of all the workloads in Office 365. It's free. It's a lifetime benefit, and you can use it as many times as you want. So, for example, if you initially moved to Office 365 because you wanted to move email to the cloud, you may have worked with Fast Track to do that, but it's fine to call Fast Track Monday morning and say, hey, our email's up and running. Now we'd love to have your help with SharePoint, or we'd love to have your help with Delve, or help us figure out what's a good Yammer strategy. Fast Track as an organization is there to help you for all of the workloads that you own and have rights to in Office 365. And they'll perform basically 3 tasks. First, for new customers, they'll help you decide, really what are the tools that you're looking to roll out for your organization and make that project plan. Then they'll help you roll it out. There's phone-based support for actually successful deployment of these workloads. Next, they'll help you get your users on. They'll help you make a plan to roll out these changes in your organization, do the change management, and drive ongoing usage. So it's a very rich program that I think everybody, no matter how long you've been an Office 365 customer, can benefit from. And it's free. I mean, that's just, you got to use it. It's free. All right. So the other thing that you will find in the Fast Track repertoire of materials is a dedicated set of guidance for rolling out groups in Outlook. You can see the screenshot here. I'm actually going to switch over to the web and show you what these resources look like. So here you can get We're going to duplicate. OK, let's see if that works better. Here you can get step-by-step guidance on how to roll out groups in Outlook. And for questions about which tool when, we talked about that. Say your end users are asking you questions, feel free to send them directly to this productivity library, where they can sort by functional role, they can sort by industry, and then they can look at specific tasks that they want to do, or I want to collaborate with a group, and they can simply click here and get that guidance. So very rich set of tools for you to use. So bookmark, Fast Track. Let's head back over to our slides. OK. So we've covered what Office 365 Groups is and how the role it plays in Microsoft's approach to collaboration. We've covered how management works. It's going to be mostly in the Office 365 admin console and also in Azure AD portal, and then how to get started with the help of Fast Track. We have a busy roadmap ahead for groups, and when it comes to groups, you can expect to see new features in two distinct categories. The first is in the applications themselves. So the collaboration experiences that are integrated with groups in Outlook, Teams, Skype, all of these applications will continue to get richer over time. So you'll see new features in the experience there. But we're also committed to the administration experience in Office 365 Groups. And so you see here some of the features that we'll be rolling out in the next 3 to 6 months or so. What you can always do to keep track of these is sign up for the Office 365 roadmap. That's on Fast Track. And bookmark the Office Blogs blog, because that is where we publish all big news about new features that we've announced and new experiences. Also, quick show of hands, how many people use the Message Center in the Office 365 admin console? OK, good. Good to know. We are really trying to be good about communicating through that as a channel. But of course, if not everybody's checking it, then you're not getting those communications. So good feedback for me to know that not everybody's checking those. All right, in terms of next steps, when you get back to your office, you can go ahead and migrate those DLs to groups, drive usage with the Fast Track resources, and really just explore and learn more about Fast Track as a resource for you as well. And then please join the Microsoft Tech community if you're not there already. All of us in Redmond and around the world are active on that community, and so that's an easy way to reach us, to ask questions, and get feedback and perspective, not just from Microsoft, but from other customers who've taken this journey, who've maybe had some of the same challenges, and you can share best practices with each other. So that concludes the formal content here. Now I'll take questions sort of up front here, because we're going to not have the recording on that. But thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your time at the Tech Summit.